The mission of the Historic Marbold Farmstead Association is threefold. One is to acquire the property, two is to restore the property, and the third is to educate the public not only about the history of this particular farmstead, but of agricultural practices over time. The Marbolds were involved in agriculture from the time they arrived in 1851 at this site to the time when they left in 1926. When it started, Lincoln would have still been representing this area, and it went long after his death, the Civil War, through the turn of the century. The family was very much involved in not only being immigrants, but helping other immigrants come to America and to start a new life here. Because they were sponsoring immigrants, they would provide a place for them to stay. They either would stay here at the farm. They had basically separate quarters for the women and the men. They would give them jobs, and they would learn English, learn about farming here. They would go ahead and work at the mercantile, but they would have rooms at the Wernssing house. So it operated more as a boarding house. Often they would marry and then start a farm of their own.
My great-grandparents came to America, sponsored by the Marbolds, as single adults. They entered the port of New Orleans, and then they came up the Mississippi, up the Illinois, and landed in Menard County in the town of Greenview. And they later married. When they did finally get enough money, they built a two-story home, which my husband and I now own and live in, northeast of Greenview.
The idea is that we would be helping people to understand exactly what life would have been like at that time and that place. The horses were drawing the plows, they were drawing the equipment. Almost everything that was done as a community.
To educate the public about historical farming and farming of the past in the state of Illinois. We have plow groups in different areas, and when I acquainted myself with this Marbold homestead farming, I plowed on their farm.
The mission of the farmstead is not only to educate the public, but to provide a hands-on opportunity for elementary and secondary. The kinds of things that we think about today are so different than what they were at that time.
So anything else between animals, machines?
Machine would probably be more accurate.
Definitely more accurate. Anybody want to give a reason why, an attribution to why rows are so straight these days?
Because there's a setting on the combine or tractor.
Yes, we have auto steer. Anything else with?
Something breaks, you can order it right then.
Definitely. Out in the field, something breaks, you can call your local implement dealer. Even when you're not out in the field, so many farmers nowadays have the markets sent directly to their phones.
I believe that the Marbold Farmstead Association is bettering our community. I feel like it's helping our students learn about what happened in the late 1800s to 1920s and about all the technology and everything.
In terms of Scouts, Girl Scouts, Boy Scouts, FFA, 4-H, for them to come here and see something that needs to be done, to pick that as their project, we would love to see that happen.
That could create synergy for companies that are looking to expand into the agricultural field with employment of people as well as education of agriculture.
We are excited and encouraged to be working with the Marbold Farmstead. We are hosting the Section 12 Land Use Contest. They sample soil structure, soil texture. The students are asked to do math problems. We are excited to have the contest here.
And I think this would provide an excellent opportunity for a university to get involved in getting students out to work.
The farmstead has been here since 1851. It is an icon of agricultural history and heritage.
The museum, the Historical Society as a whole, takes in all of Menard County. Therefore, any important place such as Marbold is important to us because we can use it We can showcase it here as well as through the Marbold Association. It's working together as a county to gather all of that information.
It represents a history of not only the Midwest and agriculture in the Midwest, but it also represents a history of Greenview because the two are so tied together.
They had that picnic out south of the house in the massive yard that they had there. As kids, we ran around behind to chase the peacocks.
I was one of the last babies born in the marble home. It was at the end and during the Depression era. We did a lot of hide and seek within the house because of the large rooms. We lived in the bottom portion of the house in the wintertime because we didn't use a furnace. That was for the whole house. We only used a coal pot-belly stove in the dining room. My mom would cook the breakfast dinners and suppers for the hired hands that we had during the year and also for our family. There was very little money that was around, so everything was real tight. By the time I was 3 years old, my folks had lived there probably, they went in 1928, and by 1943, so you're looking at about 15 years or so, things had deteriorated quite a bit because no maintenance was being done on any of the outbuildings or any of the roofs or any of the maintenance that should be to keep up a beautiful mansion like that.
We have watched as some of the outbuildings have disappeared. The barn, the chicken house, pigeon house has fallen in. We're seeing the ice house starting to get a hole in the roof, and without a roof, most buildings will eventually disappear. There's also a set of buildings that run north of the house that includes the carriage house, the smoke house, and the dairy. All of those buildings are at risk at this point. So we are exceptional in the fact that we have original buildings here. We have the remnants of original buildings here that can be and are still able to be restored. We want to try to preserve what we can, restore what we can't preserve, and rebuild then what can't be restored. And we need your help to get the job done.
I support the Marbold Association in their restoration effort.
This was a self-supporting working farmstead, and I think it's incumbent on all of us to get the energy and resources together to acquire and redevelop this site and make it again what it once was, a crown jewel of agricultural in the Midwest. Of course, that'll take not just our efforts, but the efforts and support of everyone in the community to make it happen.
The Tourism Council has been promoting the Marbold Farm Association and the events that they hold. Basically, agritourism has to do with farming, has to do with the history of farming, the history of our communities, anything to help develop that Marbold Farm, the Marbold Mansion, as a tourist attraction for the county.
Tourism brings monetary benefit to any community.
Not only being a member, but a sponsor, I've had a great deal of fun and excitement being part of the foundation.
I've helped with a lot of the events held at the Marbold Mansion, and it is a really great opportunity for all the students, and it really helps them learn.
I think all of us, if we look back through our heritage and our ancestors, we'll find that agriculture was a very big part of some side of the family, maybe on both sides of the family. And with the association as such, we need to be supportive of that heritage that has been part of our lives and give other young people that are younger than ourselves, 2 or 3 generations younger, the opportunity preparing for this century to be innovative and also creative to solve some of the problems of agriculture today.
We really have to rally together now to get the resources necessary to get the property acquired and restored.
Join us with the Historic Marbold Farmstead Association and be part not only of the history of this area, the Midwest and the U.S., but also the future. Thank you.